What's up everybody, I'm Mad.Ak.Max and welcome to my channel and another Let's Craft episode. So recently I was out there searching for a helmet. To be specific, I was searching for an LShZ One Plus low-cut helmet in green. This is a helmet made in Russia for the special forces and it's kind of the counterpart, the Russian counterpart for the Western obscure fast helmets. It made its first appearance around 2013 and since then it underwent a few modernizations, but still it is kind of a semi-modern helmet at this point, and yeah, also with medical ballistics, I'd say. But anyway, I was in need of one, to be exact, a green low-cut version. I want to recreate a kit that is in use with the Russian SSO, and those guys kind of primarily use the LShZ One Plus low-cut version in green. So I tried to buy one. Didn't work out. First of all, the helmet is actually quite expensive. If you were lucky back in the good old days, you kinda were able to find them in between 700 and 800 bucks. But those times are over and right now you're looking more at 900, in between 900 and $1,200 dues. That's a hefty price for a helmet, and I know that a lot of people are not willing to spend that. And even though if they are willing to spend that, getting one right now is very difficult, especially if you're trying to buy it from Russia, because yeah, people are very careful what they ship over the border right now because they can get into a lot of trouble. Furthermore, I need the helmet size watermelon, which kind of makes stuff a little bit more difficult because yeah, 1 and 2 are more common than watermelon size 3. And all the reasons combined, the price, difficulties to import and export, my size, the green one is rare anyway, so yeah, I gave up on my hunt for the LShZ One Plus low cut in green. So I began looking at replicas. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of replicas, sometimes it's unavoidable if you want to create a cool kit because the object of desire is not available, like in this case. And when looking at replicas of Russian helmets, there's pretty much only one decent choice, and that is FSB Shop. Their helmets are handmade over in I believe Belarus, I'm not exactly sure. And those come in with around 220 bucks, decently priced, especially after this episode I can appreciate the price, but the wait time on those is insane. Last time I was in contact with the shop, they told me they had a waiting list of like 4 months, and yeah, I'm not going to wait 4 months for a helmet. And this brings us to the project for today. We're going to build an LShZ One Plus low-cut helmet in green. First of all, I didn't make any preparations. Classic. I haven't watched any tutorials, any videos, how other people make their helmets, or read into any guidelines. I just kinda had the idea in my mind and started right away. So first of all, what do you need for this project? Well, let's begin with an LShZ One Plus helmet. And I can already hear you typing, but brother man, I was watching this tutorial to build an LShZ One Plus high-cut helmet, and now I have to own one. What is that? Yes, inconvenient for you. No, of course not. First option for you is to join my Patreon because I created 3D files of this helmet so you can print your own and then you pretty much have the negative ready to go. Or you can just simply buy a cheap obscure clone from, for example, AliExpress. They go for around 20-30 bucks. They're very cheap. The arc rates on the other hand, well, I believe Gearcraft sold those separately a while ago. I'm not sure if they still do that. Well, otherwise you can join my Patreon maybe. Yes, my Patreons will also receive the arc rate files and the files for the NVG mount and the template for the cutout of the Velcro stripes and so on, and further tips and measurements and whatnot. Join my Patreon. Keep in mind though, all of this stuff is for watermelon size. I'm not sure if those vary in size, I don't think so. But anyway, keep that in mind. Watermelon, big head, big brain. And if you're wondering why the helmet is not black anymore and has a very ugly paint job, well, that is because I bought it with a very ugly paint job. Seriously, I have no idea what the hell this guy used as color. It was probably designed to survive like 3 nuclear winters outside on your garden fence in Russia. Yeah, I had to remove it and restore the original black helmet. I did that off screen though because the process is pretty much exactly the same how we're going to paint and create the surface on our replica. So yeah, I did that off screen. You will see later in the video how I did that. So I'm going to disassemble the helmet completely, means I remove the arc rails and the NVG mount. I'm going to leave the Velcro where it is because it's kind of glued to the surface of the helmet, and if I try to remove it, I'd probably damage the helmet, and I don't want that because, yeah, I don't want that. And you guys might have realized that I own a high-cut helmet and I'm going to build a low-cut helmet. Well, how does that work? Well, we need basically to recreate the low-cut helmet and cover the ears. For that, I took a closer look at pictures of the low-cover version and took some measurements from my helmet and, yeah, designed 2D panels which I want to apply to the helmet or attach to the helmet and then bend and form under heat. Of course, I don't want to have any molten plastic to have contact with the helmet itself. That's what the tape is for, and then I will attach a base layer of molten PLA. For that I use the soldering iron, by the way, at around 400 degrees Celsius. And like I said, I'm going to create pretty much a base layer with molten plastic on the tape where I can then attach the side panel for the ear covers. After I made the first contact point, I'm going to use the heat gun to apply, some heat, who could have guessed, and then kind of manipulate and form the material in the way I need it. So I'm pretty much just switching in between connecting the ear cover to the base layer and then applying more heat so I can bend it further into shape until everything is fully connected to the helmet. After the ear cover is completely connected to the helmet, I use furthermore the ear gun. I'm going to use the ear gun. What the fuck? I need to go to sleep. I'm awake for way too long. Then again, I use the heat gun to manipulate the material and bring it to its final shape. And yeah, this is kind of tricky. You have to use pictures on the internet and work by feeling. So the next step is a little bit unconventional, I'd say. So I was trying to make a smooth transition in between the helmet and the ear cover I just attached. And for that, you can use, of course, like modeling clay or other expensive stuff, but I decided to go the redneck engineering cheap route and went with candle wax. After everything dried up, I used a sharp knife to shave and carve the wax into its final shape. And that worked surprisingly well. The next step is to completely wrap and basically seal the helmet with clear stretch foil. I do that because I want to take the negative of the helmet with plaster. If you have the balls to completely remove the Velcro from your helmet, you can do that of course, and take a cast directly with fiber resin from the helmet itself. For me that was not an option, so I decided to go with plaster. After everything is wrapped up and sealed, I start to apply the very first plaster layers. Don't ask me why it's purple. I have no idea. Well, I have an idea. It was cheaper than white for some reason, so I ordered purple. Well, there you go. And now it's just layer by layer. Just make sure that you overlap a little bit of the material always over the edge of the helmet. And while the plaster was still wet, I used my wife's precious scissors to remove the excess material. After everything dried up for about 24 hours, it was rock solid. Time to unpack and remove the helmet from our cast. And now I'm going to use something that is called a wood kit. And this stuff is used to cover up and fix little dents or cracks inside of wood, and it dries completely crack-free, which is perfect for our needs. After I applied a layer of maybe like 5 millimeters, I used some water in my hands to smooth out this surface even further. And then I had another great idea. I used a rubber glove and I filled it up with water and wetted the surface again and used that to smooth out the surface. And that worked incredibly well. And now that we have our cast off the helmet, we can remove the ears from the original helmet. And this is what I meant, just break them off within 2 or 3 seconds. Easy peasy. After the wood kit dried up, I used some 240 grit sandpaper to smooth out the surface even further. After everything was cleared from the sanding dust, it was time to paint the inside of the helmet. I did that because the wood kit is still very hygroscopic, which means it can like suck up liquid and water and also epoxy resin. So I sealed that with paint. And now it is time to start to work on the actual helmet, and for that we are going to use fiberglass. This stuff is made from microscopic small fibers from glass or silicate. And yeah, you see where this is going. Tiny sharp fibers made from glass. Basically this stuff gets stuck into your skin, it irritates the hell out of it, and you don't want to breathe that in, obviously. So when grinding this stuff, make sure that you wear a respirator, wear gloves, and also have clothing that is covering your skin. Don't make the same mistake I did. Yeah, I used shorts and a shirt. I swear to God, never again, but later more. So we begin by pre-cutting our fiberglass mats. Sounds weird. For that I heavily recommend a roll cutter. It makes stuff so much easier, and like I said before, you don't want any of those tiny little glass shards or fibers, and a scissor creates a lot of them. We're going to need a lot of material. I believe I used around 4 square meters of glass fiber for this helmet. I bought like 6 to have a little bit of backup, but yeah, you won't believe how much material a little shape like this can eat up. Now it's time to mix up the epoxy. For that I use my fine scale. If you don't have one, well, you can also use syringes, for example. Then you have to work with volume, of course. I begin with applying a very thick first layer. And this is the point in the project where you normally apply a separating agent in between your very first layer of epoxy and the form you are going to use. I cheaped out and I used Vaseline, and that was a mistake, as you can see later in the video. And then you put down your very first piece of fiberglass. And then another one. And 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 another one. Yeah, you pretty much repeat that process until you lose your mind. Seriously. After about 24 hours, the epoxy was completely hardened through, and then I tried to remove the helmet from our cast. Wasn't possible. Yeah, I shouldn't have used Vaseline, but an actual separation agent. But oh well, so I had to remove and destroy the cast. For that I just used the water hose and a wire brush. The remaining wood kit I removed with the angle grinder with a flat disc. I think it was 120 grit. Did you notice something? I was wearing shorts and a shirt and no gloves. It wasn't bright, not at all. I had the itch for like fucking 3 days. I had to throw away the pair of shoes I was using that day. It was insane, that stuff was everywhere. My girlfriend sat down on a chair about 35 meters away from the spot where I was grinding the very next day in our garden after it rained. And she got the itches on the arm because that dust settled on the armrest. It was insane. It was utterly insane. And I get absolute Vietnam flashbacks thinking about fiberglass. Then I thought, man, my hands got really messed up. They kind of are completely rough and dry because of all the grinding and the working. It wasn't dry, it was the glass sticking in my hands. That was one of the most disgusting feelings I have ever felt on my hands, seriously. I was using oil, I was using lotion, and I was showering like 5 times that day, and it took like 3 days until I kind of felt normal again. Seriously, this was one of the worst experience I ever had with working material. After everything dried up, I grabbed a can of spray paint that has a glossy finish. That again helps to spot like scratches or uneven parts in the surface of the helmet. And just when you think you were done with applying stuff to our helmet, well, here's another layer of spray filler. And now I have to admit that I lost a little bit of footage. I have no idea where it went. I wasn't able to find it anywhere. It was just pretty much me hand sanding with, I believe, 240 grit the helmet again to create the final smooth surface. Yes, I took a lot of effort to create a nice surface. So, the helmet edge trim. I was not able to source the original helmet edge trim. They use kind of like a very weird clear material, plasticky material that is also covered in resin. And I have no idea what it is and I have no idea where to find it. So I decided to use cloth and also cover it in resin. To keep everything in place, I use super glue. I work bit by bit because this time I'm going to use a fast setting epoxy. I think it has like 5 minutes of working time and then it starts to set. And after that you're kind of able to form it for like another 5 minutes, which is also very helpful to create a smoother transition in between the helmet and the edge trim itself. Then I hit the edge trim with the disc sander just to even things out a little bit. So this is pretty much the complete helmet done, so it's time for painting. You maybe have to try out a few different manufacturers of spray paint until you find the perfect tone for the helmet you need. In my case, it was MFH, I believe, forest green. So, time for the attachments. We are talking about the arc rails, of course. So I created a 3D model of the arc rails because I have the original helmet right here. So I was able to pinpoint pretty much any measurement I needed, and they are pretty much spot on. Like I said, the files for the arc rails and the NVG mount will be available for my Patreons. After removing these supports, I had to hand sand the arc rails just to create that perfectly smooth surface, and I also threw them into the sandblasting cabinet, but I don't film that because I don't want my camera equipment near the dust that comes from that thing. Also, I made a little mistake at that point because I removed too much material and I had to reapply it by pretty much welding it with the soldering iron. This is, pretty much like I would work with metal and a welder to create extra artificial material which I can then work with or remove or reform, reshape, whatever. Because I was not able to recreate the exact curvature of the arc rails for the helmet, I had to heat them up again with the heat gun and then press them against the helmet. After about 20 to 30 seconds, everything hardens up again and it fits seamless against the helmet. The helmet strap and fastening system I bought from China. It's pretty much the exact same model, which is also used in any other replica as well. It's quite cheap, it's only like 13 bucks, and for what it is, it works pretty well. For the NVG mount, I use a Gearcraft one made from metal. I had one left in the box of things I don't need. You still can, of course, use my STL files. The Gearcraft thing goes for like 10 to 15 bucks. If you want to order them directly from Russia, well, you have to wait a little bit, but same of course with the things from China, but those are usually a little bit faster. But anyway, if you want to print them, you can print them. If you want one from metal for like 15 bucks, 12, I don't know exactly, you can buy them from Gearcraft directly. Now we just drill the holes to mount everything, and then it's time for the final assembly. If you take a closer look at pictures of the OnePlus helmet, you will notice that the arc rails have a little bit more of a leaf tone. Not that base color green like the helmet, it's a little bit different. And again, you have to play a little bit with colors to find the correct one. In my case, it was olive green. And now it's time for the Velcro. For that, I just use olive green Velcro with 50 millimeters of diameter. So here it is. This project took so much longer than I anticipated, and this is actually the third time that I filmed this outro. The reason everything took so long, well, first of all, this is a complicated build that is connected to quite a bit of effort. Secondly, every single step has its downtime after you're finished, because every time, for example, you sand something and you cover it with resin again, the epoxy has to settle again. And that takes, with the epoxy I worked with, about 24 hours. So every time I fixed something or I made some adjustments to the helmet, I had to wait every time 24 hours to apply a layer of epoxy, then, for example, grind again and then apply the next layer. It took ages. And after everything was done, I was pleased, but something fell off. I don't know, something wasn't really right. I couldn't put my finger exactly on it. And then I went to my buddy, to my Russian buddy, who is quite an expert on Russian gear, way more than I am. And I was like, hey man, look at my helmet, what do you think? And he was just like, the angle of ears too narrow. He doesn't talk like that, but you get the idea. But yes, he was correct. The ears were just too flat, not enough wideness in between the ears. And after looking at different pictures, yeah, it was clear I had to rework the ears of the helmet, which is connected to so much work and so much trouble. So pretty much I took a saw, removed the ears, re-glued them with epoxy at the correct angle, as I thought, and then, yeah, covered everything again in glass fiber and resin and make a seamless surface. After that was done, which took like 2 weeks, I believe, I reassembled the helmet, took a look. The angle is too wide now. Fuck. Yes, and then I had to recut everything again. Basically, this time I took the cut a little bit lower at this side, basically, and pushed the ears back inwards and used leather straps to fix everything, re-glue everything, and rework the surface again. I went insane. And to be honest with you guys, I just couldn't find the nerves and the motivation to film everything again of those tiny steps, which are pretty much exactly the same like the complete helmet build. So I just did it off cam. This is also due to the time consumption. To film every step, it just takes so much time, and I was so far behind my schedule already that I decided to do it off cam to be done much quicker. And yeah, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to film that. I hope you guys can forgive me. I will show some pictures on my Patreon though, where I will show you guys pretty much some pictures I took while reworking the ears, so you get an idea for that. So, how close is this helmet to the original? I'd say pretty damn close. As you guys know from watching this video, I hope you didn't skip to the end. This is an original LShZ 1 Plus and this is my replica. So, how much did I spend overall on making this helmet? Well, when it comes to the glass fiber, I needed about 4.5 square meters for a size 3 LShZ 1 Plus low cut. I went the safe route and ordered, I believe, 6 square meters, and I had to spend like, I think 50 bucks on that. The epoxy accounts for 25 euros and the 5-minute epoxy for like 7. So right now we are at 82, I believe. I'm very bad at math. The Velcro stripes were 6 euros. For the spray paint cans, I think I spent like $10. And the NVG mount, well, I had this one, otherwise I would have 3D printed it. The AliExpress liner came in with like 15 bucks and the inlays were like $7 or $8. They were not that expensive. So overall, was it worth the trouble? Yes, I'd say so. I'm super happy with this thing and it came out so incredibly cool. Looks amazing, feels amazing, has pretty much the original weight. And yeah, I'm not sure if there's another replica that comes so close to this helmet like mine. If so, well, good for you, but I'll keep mine. Now it is time for a thank you. A special thank you, not just a normal thank you, a special thank you. A special thank you to my Patreons. Seriously guys, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of our small gang. That's awesome. You are here to support me. You are here because you believe in this channel and I want to give back as much as possible. This is also the reason, like I announced earlier, I will upload the 3D printing files for the arc rails and the NVG mount up to my Patreon. Furthermore, I will upload all references I have regarding this helmet. I will upload measurements of my helmet and the original LShZ 1 Plus helmet, high cut and color schemes, so you guys know what color you need, and overall instruction. And I will give tips and tricks if needed. Just write me over on Patreon. I will try my best to help you if you want to recreate this project, and everything else I just forgot to mention. And just like that, we're done again. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, I appreciate you. I apologize again for the delay in between the videos. I can promise the next Let's Craft episode is also going to be incredibly cool. I have something very special in my blueprints draw book thing. Thank you guys. See you soon. Bye.